Yeah, so our lantern's activated. If we get rid of the item frame, it's gone. We put it back. Our lantern's now active. Right then, onto our second style of multi-block structures. So we're actually going to give this lantern a function. Hi, I'm Clip. Welcome to my little command block tutorial series. Let's get working. So our first big hurdle is how do we actually detect the multi-block structure? So previously we used items. You dropped an item onto our little ocean platform there, and it creates an effect. It creates a multi-block structure use, and we're terming that as an inert multi-block structure. So it means we have to interact it as the player for it to actually accomplish an effect. But this system is going to be an active multi-block structure, meaning it's always going to function. So how do we detect it? Well, we can get around our little entity hurdle if we use something stationary like item frames. So item frames are the perfect entity because they can't move, they can't interact, and they can't die. Well, unless we obviously destroy them. So they are perfect markers to actually detect a multi-block structure. That said, there are other creative ways. If you're making a map, for instance, you could use markers, you could use invisible armor stands, but we're making a multi-block structure the player can create in survival. So what do we have? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nether brick walls, one to the left, a soul lantern, and our item frame. So now all we have to do is actually code that into our command block, starting at our entity. So type equals, we're using glow item frames. So this is perfect. It's going to look at every glow item frame, and now we can tell it what blocks to look for around that glow item frame. So first off, I've actually tweaked our multi-block structure. And the reason for this is it's an important lesson to learn, and it is to think about symmetry. Because for instance, previously I had the item frame somewhere over here, and what this means is that the lantern that we're going to detect always has to be in a set direction. So rather than that, we've set it up so now that we can detect the item frame, one block, and the lantern. And that allows the player to not only customize obviously the post and any extension, but also means that they can place it oriented any way they want. If we think of our little ocean platform here, it's completely symmetrical, meaning that there's only one design for players to follow. Anything they add to it is up to them, but also means that it's not confusing. It means they don't have to figure out positive and negative X and Z, and they can just build your structures. So it's definitely something important to keep in mind, and also makes it a lot easier for programming. Because if you were to have the lantern oriented, 1x away from the item frame, you would then need to code it 4 times in each direction, so that the player can then build it in any orientation they'd like. But the actual command setup, super simple. Right, so our command chain is just this. Execute at entity, glow item frame. If there's a block underneath it, that's nether bricks, and then if there's a block 2 blocks under it, soul lantern. It's all we need to detect the multi-block structure. Because again, all you're doing is programming in the core features of your structure, and that way you can give the player the customization to build around it, add to it, change features. They can now increase the height of this lantern, whatever they want. You can also take that a step further. You could make them have to place a set item into the glow item frame, which is something I like to do to sort of activate it. But than that, this is the only premise we need, and now we can run our little effects. So for instance, we might want to do it's some sort of warding mechanism. So we could kill all entities that are not the player. So blacklist the player within a set distance. You know what? I missed it because item frames are indeed an entity. So let's just blacklist them as well. Type equals doesn't like it. There we go. Glow item frame. Perfect. So now we can properly do it. There we go. And then if we grab our husks, so if they come within 5 blocks, they automatically get destroyed. Well, that one was from us. Trying to... Oh, there's the range. You can see them jump into 5 blocks. So now we have a little lantern set up that's warding. And of course, you can tweak it to do essentially anything you want. You could give the lantern a particle effect. So instead of doing this, we could just do run particle. Now you have to remember you're centered at the item frame, not the lantern. So if we wanted to do something like soul fire flame, we would have to move it down 2 blocks because that's where the lantern is. Just give it some basic information. Goes 0.2 blocks in every direction, 0.1, and because it's running a tick, we'll just do 1 particle. Yeah, so our lantern's activated. If we get rid of the item frame, it's gone. We put it back. Our lantern's now active. So we can make it into a beacon style block instead. All we have to do is copy over the start, so our execute at, and then our block markers. Right, so all copied over, I execute at glow item frame, if block -1 nether brick, -2 soul lantern, and then we're just running effect give any player within a distance of 10, haste 1. So if we slowly walk over there, we should get haste pretty soon. There we go. So as long as we're in this little range of our lantern, we get haste, we leave it, obviously it times out. And of course, the only structure we care about is this center one, so in fact I can reassemble it somewhere else. Super simply, because this is the core of our little multi-block structure. But haste. And that's all you need to create an active multi-block structure. You just need some sort of entity marker. That's the toughest thing. You could make the player have to drop an item so the item despawns and they have to constantly reset it, something like that. That would be the easiest way to create a beacon effect. You could stick with item frames and make the player have to actually put items into the item frame to trigger the block. But yeah, multi-block structures are actually super simple here in vanilla. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. See ya.